She took everything from me, so I took back more than she ever expected. I stood at the edge of the stage, the applause thunderous, but none of it was for me. Not yet. From the shadows, I watched her bask in the spotlight, her eyes scanning the crowd, smug and victorious. She thought she'd won. She always did. But tonight was the night I flipped the script. Because what she didn't know was that I had the mic next. And what I was about to say would shatter every lie she ever built. My name is Amara Khalid. 32 years old. Graduate of Columbia, double majors in strategic communications and behavioral psychology. 6 years as a media consultant for the most powerful political firm on the East Coast. But the real lessons of power, betrayal, and manipulation? Those came from her, Zoya Nadim, my childhood best friend turned corporate nemesis. We met in school, just two scared girls from immigrant families trying to survive in elite private academies. She was bright, beautiful, and wickedly ambitious. And me? I was the planner. The thinker. The one who made her shine from the shadows. I crafted her campaigns, her speeches, her reputation. She became the face of every success. I was the backbone no one saw. And I didn't mind. Until the day she decided the spotlight wasn't big enough for the both of us. It started with a missed promotion. One I earned. One I'd been promised. But the email announcing the new head of strategy said Zoya Nadim instead. I didn't confront her. I congratulated her. Smiled through it. Until I saw the files on her desk, the pitch deck I created. The data I compiled. The language I wrote. She presented my work. Word for word. And signed her name at the bottom. When I asked her why, she laughed. Welcome to the real world, Amara. No one rewards loyalty. Just boldness. That was the moment I realized. Zoya didn't betray me because she had to. She did it because she could. Because she knew I was the one person who would never fight back. Until now. They say revenge is best served cold. I disagree. Revenge is best served calculated, with the patience of a bomb ticking beneath the floorboards. And I had just lit the fuse. For the next 3 months, I became a ghost in my own office. I smiled. I nodded. I delivered work ahead of deadlines. Zoya was flying higher than ever, new promotion, media features, whispers of political consulting. But every queen forgets the pieces that made her bored. And I was no pawn. I was the strategist who'd stopped playing. While Zoya basked in her stolen spotlight, I studied her. Mapped every move she made. Every blind spot. She had power, yes, but no discipline. No plan beyond her charm. I started gathering the pieces of her empire. Quietly. Ruthlessly. I contacted every client I had ever worked with through her. I didn't ask for favors. I simply offered solutions, real ones. Campaign data, communication frameworks, brand rehabs. All mine. All proven. Clients noticed. One by one, they began emailing me directly. Not Zoya. Me. I kept receipts. Every transfer of loyalty was logged, quietly documented. I knew she'd notice eventually, but by then, it would be too late. Zoya had skeletons, most confident people do. But she had something worse, digital arrogance. Late nights alone in the office gave me access. She never changed her passwords. Still used her pet's name with an exclamation point. I downloaded everything. Voice memos where she badmouthed clients. Strategy docs she'd lifted from junior consultants. Invoices that didn't match deliverables. Fake testimonials. She'd built a mountain of fraud behind a designer suit and a rehearsed smile. I didn't leak anything, yet. Just saved them in a cold, quiet drive named Zoya_empire.txt. Zoya always needed an audience. So I gave her one. At every team meeting, I began seeding subtle praise from other employees. Oh, that campaign Amara ran for Becker Foods really shifted engagement. Didn't Amara do the internal branding for Crosspoint? She hated it. And she couldn't stop it without sounding insecure. She tried to push back, assign me to supportive roles. So I overperformed. Made her dependent on my work again. She needed me, and she resented me for it. Perfect. I began having quiet coffees with our competitors. Harmless, I'd say. Just catching up. In reality, I was planting seeds. Zoya's ego wouldn't let her see it, but the industry had begun shifting. By month 4, her halo had cracks. Not big ones, not public, just enough for people to start doubting. Hesitating. Wondering what she actually did behind the glamour. She was too distracted to notice the tide changing. Too comfortable. And that's the fatal flaw of powerful people. They never imagine the floor vanishing beneath them. Our firm had a high-profile pitch coming up, one that would define our standing in Washington circles. Zoya insisted on leading it. But the CEO wanted me present too, because my work had been landing real results. Zoya couldn't say no. She smiled, said all the right things. But her eyes burned holes into mine. I smiled back. She didn't know I had already sent an anonymous file to the board, outlining discrepancies in her past 3 client billings. Not accusations, just questions. Enough to raise eyebrows. The pitch was in 2 days. Her fall would begin in 3. By the time we walked into that conference room, Zoya was still the star. But stars die in silence, just before they explode. And I had been waiting for that supernova. For that precise, timed detonation. The pitch was for Merrick and Gordon, a powerful DC lobbying firm representing some of the most influential names in policy. If we landed this client, it would elevate our agency overnight. Zoya wanted the spotlight. Of course she did. She wore a sharp emerald pantsuit that screamed commander, paired with heels like knives. I came dressed in all black. Not because I planned war, but because I was mourning the version of me that used to care what she thought. The CEO, Martin Kemp, nodded as we both entered the boardroom. "Let's make it a clean win, ladies," he said. I smiled. Oh, it would be clean. Surgical, even. Zoya opened the pitch. She delivered the standard charm, statistics, market insight, name drops of prior campaigns. It was smooth. Rehearsed. Then it was my turn. Flipped open my laptop and walked them through a digital audit strategy one had developed. Original, adaptive, and brutally effective. It blended predictive analytics with behavioral data, giving M&G the power to outpace competitors before they even realized they'd fallen behind. The panel leaned in, took notes, asked questions to me. Zoya's smile faltered. Her fingers tapped nervously. When the meeting ended, Martin shook my hand first. "Well done, Amara," he said. Zoya was still reaching for her folder when he turned away. What Zoya didn't know. The night before the pitch, an anonymous file had been delivered to the firm's board and CEO. Contents: discrepancies in billing, misuse of subcontractors, screenshots of private conversations where Zoya mocked clients, fabricated testimonials, and, worst of all, a letter typed on her laptop, left unsaved, suggesting she planned to poach clients and launch her own agency. It wasn't sabotage. It was truth. And the firm's internal audit began immediately. They didn't suspend her, yet. But the eyes started watching. The next blow came from outside. A former intern anonymously published a Medium article titled, "The PR Queen with a Rotten Crown." In it, she detailed bullying, credit stealing, and a toxic mentorship under Zoya. I didn't write it. But I had quietly encouraged the intern 6 weeks ago to share her truth when ready. Within 24 hours, the post went viral in the marketing and PR world. Comments poured in. Some defended Zoya. Most did not. 3 days after the article dropped, Martin called an emergency executive meeting. Zoya arrived late, flustered, and visibly shaken. She tried to downplay the accusations. Tried to flip it into a witch hunt against successful women. But the board wasn't buying it. One by one, they asked about the billing issues. About falsified client outcomes. About the complaints from 3 junior staffers that mysteriously matched the intern's story. Zoya crumbled. Her voice cracked. She accused others. Then she turned to me. "Amara has always resented me," she said bitterly. "She's behind this. I know it." Martin turned to me. "Amara, care to respond?" I leaned forward. Calm. Controlled. "I've done nothing but serve this company with integrity. If Zoya has evidence otherwise, she should share it now." Silence. The kind that vibrates in your bones. Then Martin spoke again. "We'll be placing Zoya on indefinite leave pending a full investigation." Gasps. Silence. A single breath caught in Zoya's throat. She stood up. Stormed out. No applause. No sympathy. Just the sound of her heels fading down the hallway like a chapter closing. I didn't feel victorious. Not in the way I imagined. I felt clean. Like something toxic had been scraped off my soul. This wasn't just about Zoya. It was about every time I was silenced. Every time my ideas were used but my name was left off the report. Every time I was told to be patient. To stay humble. Zoya was a symbol of everything I'd survived. And now, her symbol was broken. The office was different after Zoya was gone. It wasn't just quieter. It was calmer, like the building itself had exhaled. People walked slower, looked each other in the eyes, laughed without flinching. Zoya's glass office remained untouched for 2 weeks. Her name still on the door, but her throne sat cold and abandoned. For the first time in 6 years, I didn't dread Mondays. The Monday after the board suspended her, I arrived early. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I passed by Zoya's office and paused. The blinds were drawn. The silence behind that glass wall felt poetic. She used to keep that office like a fortress. Now it felt like a museum exhibit of ego. Frozen mid-fall. HR sent out a formal memo. Pending investigation, Ms. Zoya Katri will be on administrative leave. Operations will be redistributed accordingly. Redistributed meant me. Every client of hers was temporarily reassigned to someone. And every major campaign ended up on my desk. Word travels fast in DC, but faster in marketing circles. Within a week of her departure, the city's biggest agency heads had read the Medium article. And the screenshots. Some sympathized. Some distanced themselves. And a few reached out to me directly. Hey, Amara. We've heard good things about the M&G pitch. You free for coffee this week? Congrats on taking the lead with Project Domino. Always knew you had it in you. I smiled politely. But inside, I laughed. The same people who once copied her walk, her tone, her vocabulary, were now reshaping themselves to resemble me. Funny how fast loyalty crumbles when the lights go out. At night, I found myself staring at my reflection more than usual. I thought I'd feel triumphant. But mostly, I felt still. What I'd done wasn't illegal. It wasn't even unethical. It was justice. But it had cost me something. I wasn't the same girl who once made excuses for Zoya. I wasn't the intern who stayed late hoping to impress her. That girl had burned in the fire. The woman who remained was colder, sharper, and no longer afraid of shadows. One Thursday evening, I received a call. Blocked number. I hesitated. Picked up. It was Zoya. Her voice was hollow, missing its usual bite. You won, she said. No greeting. No small talk. This wasn't about winning, I replied calmly. I didn't start a war. I just finished one you forgot you began. She was quiet. Then, softer. They're not letting me come back. My license might get suspended. You don't get it. This was all I had. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. You had a kingdom, I said. And you ruled it with fire. But eventually, fire consumes itself. Click. She hung up. No goodbye. No apology. I stood there, holding the deadline like it still held weight. The next day, I walked into the executive meeting. Martin Kemp stood at the head of the table, flanked by senior partners. As of today, Amara Patel will serve as interim creative director for all legacy clients, he announced. didn't gasp. I just nodded. I was ready. The girl who once stood in Zoya's shadow now stood in her former office. Not with vengeance, but with vision. Zoya's office didn't stay empty forever. 2 weeks after she disappeared, HR handed me the keys. Same glass walls. Same leather chair. But a completely different energy. I didn't move in with arrogance. I moved in with intent. On the very first morning, I took down the framed quote Zoya had hung on the wall. Power is earned, not given. I replaced it with my own. Power is respected when it's shared. My reign would be nothing like hers. I didn't want to lead with intimidation. I wanted to lead with clarity. I reopened every project Zoya had micromanaged into chaos. I called each team member in for feedback. I rewrote briefs, restructured timelines, and listened. People looked at me differently now. Not with fear, but with belief. One junior designer, Mira, teared up during a team huddle. I forgot what it feels like to be valued, she whispered. Zoya had left a legacy of fear. I was rebuilding a culture of trust. 3 months passed. Then one morning, I received a message from a former colleague. A link to a news article. Ex-creative director Zoya Khatri under investigation for financial misconduct and breach of contract. Apparently, one of the agencies she tried to join had done a deep background check. Found the same records I'd gathered. A formal case had been filed. She wasn't just losing clients. She was losing her license. Poetic. Because for someone who built her life on paper-thin prestige, paper was what finally destroyed her. 6 months later, I found myself sitting by my bedroom window, watching snow fall outside. My life was unrecognizable. I'd been invited to keynote a national marketing summit. My salary had doubled. The boardroom was mine now. But more than any of that, I was at peace. Zoya used to say revenge was a game for the bitter. But she misunderstood. Revenge is never about destruction. It's about restoration. I didn't destroy her. I restored myself. If you're still listening, maybe you're like me once. Tired of being overlooked. Dismissed. Burned over and over by people who wore power like a crown they didn't earn. Let me tell you this. You don't need to scream to be powerful. You don't need to fight dirty to win. Just be sharp. Be silent when needed. But when the moment comes, don't flinch. Strike like the storm they never saw coming. Because one day, they'll look back and realize you weren't the weak one. You were just preparing to rise. What would you do if your silence was mistaken for weakness? Would you wait? Or would you rewrite the ending? Let me know in the comments. And if you've ever come back stronger than they expected, you're not alone. This story was for you.